today's. So today we're going to discuss the fourth verse of the ninth chapter. We discussed the second verse last time, which is of chapter 9, which is very powerful, which is stands for the most confidential knowledge. So in the middle of Bhagavad Gita, right in the middle of the battlefield, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is explaining to Arjuna the most confidential knowledge. And now we are on to the next important verse, which is the fourth verse. Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat avyakta murtina
Jagat avyakta murtina
mastani sarvabhutani
Mastani sarvabhutani
nachaham tvesa avasthita
Nachaham tesu avastitaha
maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat avyakta murtina
Jagat avyakta murtina
mastani sarvabhutani
Mastani sarvabhutani
nachaham tvesa avasthita.
Nachaham tesu avastita
Any Prabhujis or Matajis?
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Jagat avyakta murtina
jagat avyakta murtina
Matsani sarvabhutani
mastani sarvabhutani
Nachaham tesu avastitaha
nachaham tesa avasthita.
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya
Maya
tatam
tatam
idam
idam
sarvam
sarvam
jagat abhyakta murtina
Jagat
jagat
avyakta
avyakta
murtina
murtina
matstani sarvabhutani
Mastani
mastani
sarvabhutani
sarvabhutani
nachaham tesa abhyastitaha
Nachaham
nachaham
tesu
tesa
avastitaha
avasthita.
मया ततम् इदं सर्वं
Maya
Maya
tatam
tatam
idam
idam
sarvam
sarvam
जगत् अव्यक्तमूर्तिना
jagat
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 avyakta
avyakta
murtina
murtina
murtitya
मतस्थानि सर्वभूतानि
Mastani
mastani
sarvabhutani
sarvabhutani
न च अहं तेषु अवस्थितः
Nachaham
nachaham
tesu
tesa avasthita.
avastitaha
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya
Maya
tatam
tatam
idam
idam
sarvam
sarvam
jagat abhyakta murtina
jagat
jagat
avyakta
avyakta
murtina
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 mastani sarvabhutani
Mastani
mastani
sarvabhutani
sarvabhutani
nachaham tesu avastitah.
Nacha
nachaham
aham tesu
tesa
avastitaha
avasthita. Word by word meaning. Maya,
Maya
by me.
by me
Tatam,
Tatam
pervaded.
pervaded
Idam,
Idam
this.
this
Sarvam,
Sarvam
all.
all
Jagat,
jagat
Jagata
cosmic manifestation.
cosmic manifestation
cosmic manifestation
Abhyakta murtina,
Avyakta murtina
by the unmanifested form.
by the unmanifested form
Matstani,
Mastani
in me.
in me
Sarvabhutani,
Sarvabhutani
all living entities.
all living entities
Na,
No
not.
not
Cha,
Cha
also.
also
Aham,
Aham.
Aham.
I,
I.
Tesu,
Teshu.
Teshu.
in them,
In
them,
In that.
Avasthita,
Avastitaha.
situated.
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 Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
By me,
By me.
in my unmanifested form,
in my
In my
unmanifested
unmanifested form.
this entire universe is pervaded.
This entire
This
universe,
entire universe is pervaded.
All beings are in me,
All beings are me,
me,
but I am not in them.
but
but
I am
I
not.
am not in them.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this screen page, please?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not perceivable through through the gross material senses. It is said, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grayam indriyahi sevonmukhehi jivvadau swayam eva spuratyata. Lord Sri Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, etc. cannot be understood by material senses. Only to one who is engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance is he revealed. In the Brahma Samhita 5.38, it is stated, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hrideshu Vilokayanti. No one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, always within himself and outside himself if one has developed the transcendental loving attitude towards him. Thus, for people in general, he is not visible. Here it is said that although he is all pervading everywhere, people in general, he is not visible. Here it is said that though everyone, sorry, again nahi aata hai.
No problem, Prabhuji. He is not conceivable by material senses. This is indicated
Yeah.
here by the word Avyakta Murtina. Anyone else would like to read this page?
But actually, although we cannot see him, everything is resting in him. As we have discussed in the 7th chapter, the entire material cosmic manifestation is only a combination of his two different energies, the superior spiritual energy and the inferior material energy. Just as the sunshine is spread all over the universe, the energy of the Lord is spread all over the creation, and everything is resting in that energy. Yet one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. To refute such an argument, the Lord says, I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I am aloof. For example, a king heads a government which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. The different government departments are nothing but energies of the king, and each department is resting on the king's power. Anybody else want to?
but still one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists, both in this material world and the spiritual world, are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. The creation takes place by the diffusion of its different energies, and as stated in Bhagavad Gita, uh, Vistavayam idam Krishnamam. He is everywhere present, but his personal representation the diffusion of his present energies, his different energies.
Thank you very much. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana
Kanjan
Gaurani
Gaurani
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanusute Devi
Vanusute
Pranamami Hari
Pranamami Hari
Priye
Priye
Vancha
Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Kalpa
Kripa
Tarubhyacha
Sindhu Vahevacha
Sindhubevacha
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namo
Namo
Jai
Namah
Shri Krishna
Shri
Chaitanya
Krishna
Prabhu
Chaitanya Prabhu
Nityananda Sri
Nityananda
Advaita Gadadhar
Advaita
Shivas
Gadadhara
Adi Gaura
Adi
Bhakta
Gaur
Vrinda
Bhakta Vrinda
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
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 Rama Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare Rama
Rama Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
Hare.
Hare Hare.
So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Saturday evening Bhakti Vriksha, where we take some very prominent verses one after other systematically. Last time we discussed Bhagavad Gita 9.2, where Krishna is unraveling some of the very confidential knowledge. And there he spoke about some beautiful things as to how to attain him. But here, two verses later, Krishna is explaining some of his characteristics, where he is saying, Maya tatam idam sarvam. Krishna is everywhere. He's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. And Jagat Abhyakta Murtina. And here Krishna is talking about the unmanifested form. And whenever there is an unmanifested form discussion, it is often misunderstood by many. So, which is what we're going to do today in trying to unravel what unmanifested form is, where Krishna is saying Jagat Avyakta Murtina. Avyakta Murtina means by his unmanifested form. Masthani Sarvabhutani. He is there everywhere. He is in all living beings. We say that Bhagwan is everywhere. That's what Purna Purushottam Krishna, who is the seed giving father of all of us, he's saying he's everywhere. Nachaham tvesa avasthita. That means, but he's saying he's present everywhere. But but Krishna is saying I am not in them. So this last sentence, all beings are in me, but I am not in them, is a very misunderstood, and it has a lot of misnomer behind it, which we're trying to discuss. And here, Srila Prabhupada in the Purport explains so beautifully about to understand Krishna, Brahmaji, Lord Brahma, in Brahma Samhita, which he wrote. He's saying, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, Santa Sadeva Hridayesu Vilokayanti. And he's saying, Premanjana Churita. Premanjana Churita. That means the eye, like you have heard about Amritanjana, right? You apply the Amritanjana, your headache goes away. And here Brahmaji is saying Premanjana Churita. That means if your eyes are filled with love, then you can see Krishna. Otherwise, you will be seeing a stone or a wood or a marble. So Krishna, through Brahmaji, is saying Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadevra Hidayasu Vilokit. So Krishna will reveal himself in our heart if we have the glance for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the way we see through an eye which is filled with love, and when we do some devotional service. And here, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami is saying, Lord Krishna's name, fame, pastimes cannot be understood by material senses. A lot of times when Krishna steals butter, that pastime, that sweet pastime is not understood properly There are some people who may end up saying, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why is he stealing butter? And then Prabhupada goes on to write about Krishna's name, because in this age of Kali, Krishna has put the entire power in his name. And in this age of Kali, some of the other themes, other faiths, they also chant the names of their gods. So chanting the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only way. That's why this purport starts with Lord Krishna's name, because Krishna has put the entire power in his name. And that's why when you utter the name in the form of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, it gives that element of purity in our heart, so that we can see Krishna with full of love through Premanjana Churita. So beautiful words to dwell on. So just to give a background on 9.2, Krishna talked about 8 characteristics of bhakti. You know, when he talked about the importance of Raja, this king of knowledge. And then he talked about this is the most secret of all secrets, Guiham. In 9.2, Krishna talks about Raja Guiham. It is the topmost knowledge and it has full of secrets. It is the most secret of secrets and is the purest knowledge, and it is transcendental. It gives direct perception of the self by realization, and then is the perfection of religion, and it's everlasting, and it is if it is joyfully performed. So Krishna talked about 8 things which is setting the stone for the 4th verse. So here there are 3 interpretations when you think about the Lord. Some people think about the impersonal Brahman, and here Krishna is saying the avyakta murtina, avyakta. There is a, when somebody is present in front of it, we say he's vyakta, and avyakta means when he is absent from us. Avyakta. Avyakta means he's absent from us. But the absence of a person doesn't mean the person is nowhere there. And that is where there are different lines of thought who take it and thinks that Krishna doesn't have any akar. They call him nirakar. He is like a void, he is this, he is that. But Krishna has a form. But here, when Krishna uses the word avyakta murtina, by the unmanifested form, it is often misunderstood. And that is where we have to discuss what are the 3 things Krishna is talking about here. So the Gyanis, they want to meditate on the impersonal Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti. And then we have the Paramatma, the localized in our hearts, the localized expansion of the Supreme Personality of God in our hearts, which is Paramatma. And then you have the true manifested form of Krishna, who his Tribhangi is another form. It's Lord Jagannath who is sitting and welcoming all of us into the temple. So there is a personal form which is. So in these 3 interpretations, Krishna is saying all beings are in me. That means God is everywhere, but I'm not in them. So what does that mean? If he's everywhere, then how come he's not in them? And this is where we have to recognize what our scriptures is saying. What our scriptures is saying is Krishna may be in this book, or Krishna can be in this stapler, but the stapler is not Krishna. So what is happening is, if we think Krishna is in us and we are qualitatively the same characteristic as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He likes to eat, we like to eat. He likes to dress, we like to dress. Qualitatively, we are one and the same, but quantitatively, there is a hell and heaven difference. So that's why when Krishna says, I'm not in them, it means that Krishna, even if he is present in that stapler for example, but that stapler cannot claim that he is God, he is Krishna. And that this is the mistake everybody does. And that's why in India, we have millions of God. We have God in the street corner, because This verse is very misunderstood by everyone. And then another thing, when Krishna means I am not in them, actually we are dependent on Krishna for everything. We're taking the breathing, we're dependent on Krishna. Krishna says, I am the letter Om, I am the entire Vayu. What you take is all because of me, and I have created this cosmic manifestation. So everybody is dependent on Krishna, but Krishna is not dependent on anyone. So that's what it means when he says, I am not in them. And once this is understood properly, there'll be no confusion in this. So when Lord is saying, I'm in them. So what does that mean actually? When Lord says, I'm in them, the first expansion of the Lord Krishna is Balram. From Balram, Sankarshan comes, and from Sankarshan, Mahavishnu, which is the Karnaduksha Vishnu, as you can see here. Karnaduksha Vishnu is sleeping in the Karana ocean. Karana means causal ocean. He is sleeping, and from the pores, from the hair pores, these universes are getting created. Whenever he's exhaling, universes are getting created. When he's inhaling, the universes are getting dismantled. So the Mahavishnu or Karnaduksha Vishnu and is the first Purusa expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then after he creates all these universes, he enters into each of this universe as Garvaduksha Vishnu. And as you can see from, so here he is Karnaduksha Vishnu, then he enters into each universe as Garvaduksha Vishnu. And from the navel, Brahmaji comes from a lotus. And then when Brahmaji goes into the meditation and then he creates the entire manifestation based on the Supreme Personality of Godhead's direction. So in that way, Brahmaji is the engineer who is following the architect direction of Garvaduksha Vishnu in this context. And then when he creates all these people, the beings like a tiger or a human being, as you can see here, then as Kiradakshaya Vishnu, he enters into each of these people as localized Paramatma. So as you can see, you have the Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garvadakshay Vishnu, and Kirodakshay Vishnu, where he is in each and every one as Paramatma. So in that context, Lord is everywhere. And in Virat Rup, as you can see, everybody is emanating from him. All the devas, devatas, they're all coming from Krishna. When Arjuna was given the spiritual goggles to see the Virat Rup, because he can't see, it's so powerful, then he's seeing that everybody is emanating. So that's what Krishna is saying here. He's saying everybody is coming from me, as you can see through the Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garvadakshay Vishnu, Kirodakshay Vishnu. Everything is actually coming from him. And so that's where Lord is everywhere. So Kirodakshay Vishnu is in the localized expansion as Paramatma. So as you can see, there are different expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purna Purushottam Krishna, and that is where all this individual, so this question of who comes first, Krishna or Vishnu, is very clear. And that is where we have to recognize. And there, Krishna is saying that these are actually my energy, and energy and energetic are no difference. So that means, so Krishna has a spiritual energy and which is superior and which we discussed, but this we all come back to the same topic again and again. And Krishna has an inferior energy, which is the external energy of the Lord. So the internal energy of the Lord is comprised of the Satchit Anand, which is the existential function, which is Sat or Sandhini, or the Chit potency of the Lord, which is the knowledge function, which is also called Samvit Sakti. And then Krishna is the enjoyer. He's the He's the supreme enjoyer. So he has the pleasure potency, which is the Ladini Sakti or Ananda. So the Satchit Anand is the Yogamaya potency of the Lord. And then the external energy is comprised of the Jiva Maya, which are the marginal energies like all of us. And then we have this covering Avaranatmika Maya, which says that no, we are everything. We have, we are part and parcel of Krishna, but that knowledge is covered. And that's the reason why we tend to think that we can enjoy without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there is the Praksheshmita Maya, which fills the conditioned soul with misconception. So Krishna, who has these two energies, the inferior and superior, we are actually the marginal energy of the Lord, the jivas. We are actually the spirit souls. We are actually superior at our heart. But as our body is rotting and we really want to enjoy without Krishna, we are in an illusory state. That's why we tend to flicker. That's why the three modes, the Satguna, the Rajashika Guna, and Tamasika Guna, is flickering. And that's why we have a very different view. And depending on the time of the day, we tend to, indulge in aspects which is not conducive to the overall creation. So as you can see, the gross elements, as we heard, is made up of 5 gross elements. We all are made up of 5 gross elements. Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham. That means we are made up of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And we are also made up of 3 subtle elements. And towards the end of our life, when we transmigrate to a different body at the end of our life, the subtle elements travels with us, which is Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara. That means mind, intelligence, and false ego. So in order to understand these concepts which Krishna is saying, that I am everywhere, but I am not in them, we have to understand why we have to study Bhagavad Gita. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, when does Lord comes? It is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita in 4.8, Paritranaya sadhuna vinasaya chaduskritam dharma sastapanarthaya sambhavame yuge yuge. That means Lord comes when there is a misunderstanding, when there is a lot of miscreants who are trying to mess with all of the pious souls, who are trying to foster the principle of religion. Krishna appears. That is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, and he comes millennium after millennium. So we know when Lord comes, and we have several examples of when Lord comes. It's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Then why one should understand this knowledge? And that's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. The specific word we all should focus is jnana asina mana. That means this ignorance is like a darkness. Whenever we are in ignorant, we do not have the right consciousness to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead's views and teachings. So therefore, whenever there is doubts we have in the mind, whenever everybody in this world is confused to some degree or other. Nobody can say, I'm the happiest person in the world, because this place is Dukkhalaya Sustakam. Therefore, whenever there is a doubt which has risen in your heart out of ignorance, it should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. So, jnana. That means if there is any form of ignorance, it has to be cut by this weapon of knowledge. In order to acquire knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, we all should read Bhagavad Gita. So we know when Lord comes and why one should understand this knowledge. Then let's go next to how to achieve this transcendental knowledge. Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam. That means the way to understand this transcendental knowledge in 4.2 explains this has to be received through the chain of disciplic succession. That's the reason why you should not hear Bhagavad Gita when there is no parampara involved. If there is no parampara involved, it is bound to be full of misnomers. That's why Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam. You have to take this knowledge through parampara. And Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, I told this to Surya Dev. Manu, Ikshvaku, but gradually it was lost. So whenever we want to take to Krishna consciousness or studying of Bhagavad Gita, we should look at a bona fide parampara. We should not take Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, there will be politicians who will come and teach us Bhagavad Gita. And there are politicians who are writing Bhagavad Gita book, which is not. So the only way we should understand Bhagavad Gita through the how is through evam parampara praptam. Only through parampara. Otherwise, you'll never be able to understand Bhagavad Gita. And then, who can understand this transcendental knowledge? Krishna says, Bhakto sime sakha cheti. In 4.3, Krishna mentions Bhakto sime sakha cheti. That's very profound because only a bhakta can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who else can understand? As Arjuna is around, Krishna is saying, Sakha cheti. Only a devotee and a friend can understand. In order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have to be either a devotee or you have to be a friend. And then Krishna mentions what is the actual process? Pariprashnena sevaya. Krishna says, Pariprashnena sevaya. You have to inquire from the spiritual master or one in the parampara submissively and render service to him. So as you can see, the how, what, when is everything clear in Bhagavad Gita. When Lord comes, very clearly mentions why we should understand. Every Saturday evening, we take away the time out of the long weekend and we understand this because Krishna mentions that it is going to clear the darkness of ignorance from our mind. And then how to achieve this? Krishna is saying very clearly, evam parampara praptam. And then who can understand? Bhakto sime sakha cheti. As a devotee, we can understand. If you are not a devotee, you can never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Krishna is saying, as simple as that. And then, what is the process? Krishna is very saying, pariprashnena sevaya. Bhagavad Gita is the greatest FAQ in the world because Arjuna had a lot of questions and he asked it in a submissive manner. Pariprashnena, that means question answer. So the way to understand Bhagavad Gita is through the process of submissively inquiring about the spiritual consciousness. So as we go back and dovetail these very key principles which Bhagavad Gita is tying us together, it is very clear that we cannot do anything without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A leaf cannot shake without Supreme Personality of Godhead because Vayu, who is shaking the leaf, is under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purna Purushottam Krishna. So, but that doesn't mean, and that is exactly why Krishna has left a little contradiction when he end up saying, I am not in them. And that is where we have to recognize that whatever we do, we can never be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is where we have to render service. And Premanjaran Churito Bhakto Vilochanena. That means with eyes filled with love. Only Krishna falls for his devotees. We are so fallen in this world that sometimes we cannot go to the temple. That's why once in a year, Lord comes out, Krishna in the form of Jagannath comes out to meet his devotees. Because in this world, everybody is so fallen, they do not have. That's exactly like if a person is so sick in the room, doctor has to come to your house to see him because he cannot go to the hospital. And that is when Lord Jagannath, the most merciful form of Krishna, comes out to see his devotees. So this is a very profound verse, and we all should recognize that without the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma, from whom the soul who is present in the heart, without which we'll cease to exist as a living condition, because soul is the reason why we are alive, and that is part and parcel of the Supreme. And only when we recognize the significance of that Krishna is everywhere and no one is in them, we can only appreciate how beautiful Bhagavad Gita is. And if you have any question or comments or reflections, let's discuss it, because whatever words to meditate on the weekend. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Any question or
Hare
comments?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So
Hare
much
Krishna. Hare
joining
Krishna.
from India. Prabhuji is joining from India. Prajapati Prabhu, he used to be here. He went to India on a break for 2-3 months, and he will going to join us next year as well. So thank you so much for waking up so early in the morning, Prabhuji, and
Thank you,
joining.
Babu.
And it's
Thank
very
you.
inspiring to hear you. Any
Thank you,
comments
Babu.
and questions, Prabhuji, from any of you from this verse? So we have some new devotees. Let's welcome them. And if you have any question or reflection, please go ahead and ask, so that we can discuss among the devotees who are very profound in their thought process. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat from all glories to
Hare
Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
All glories to the Vaishnavas assembled here. Very beautiful explanation, Prabhuji, and the supporting verses. I am not in them. I'll cut to the chase, Prabhuji. I am not in them. Also, we can see as that Krishna is there in a dormant form. Why he is in the dormant form also is because of our past. Krishna is in the dormant form, but he has given us a way through this Bhagavad Gita to unravel, basically to activate his dormancy, basically. Means we have to make an effort. Then the mercy as a super soul, he will come and he will enlighten us. Jnana Deepena, he says that as I'm the I light the lamp of the knowledge in the hearts. So I am not in them means it is like this, Prabhuji. We have the object is there, we have to register it. Unless it is registered, we cannot use it. So Krishna is there in the dormant form. He's there, as he has told in his earlier part, I'm there in everywhere, but we have to also perceive it, and that perception is only possible through all the examples you have given, Prabhuji. So we have to basically register ourselves to know him. Then he'll start revealing him. He revealed it to our acharyas, and through them through those acharyas he's revealing. Acharyas are revealing, and he himself is revealing to us through them, through his devotees. One point I wanted to.
Very nice, Prabhu. So Prabhuji mentioned about something called dormant, which is very significant in many of the classes you'll hear from ISKCON. Or there is something called Prakat Lila or Prakat Lila, manifested, unmanifested. So in this context, dormant, if I heard Prabhuji correctly,
Right,
it's it's unmanifested. So the example many times it is given that you have many departments. You have tax department, excise department, education department. But in these departments, you don't see a police in there. But if there is some wrong or some activity which leads to corruption, police, which is dormant, can come and punish all of the person who is corrupt or whatever. So the point here is there are certain aspect of Krishna which is present, which is so dormant that we don't see. That's exactly what happened to Hiranyakashipu. He thought he's the top of the world and he owns the whole world. He never thought from a pillar where Krishna is, where he is present in a dormant state, as Prabhuji said, he could come. And he challenged his greatest devotee, Prahlad. And what happened? Krishna, neither a man nor a lion nor animal, came out and took care and got rid of all the intestines through the through the through the nails. So here in this example, Krishna was present in the pillar in a very dormant state, as Prabhuji is mentioning. But we have to recognize that Krishna is everywhere. If we challenge, if we do not have humility, as some of the slokas we discussed, then Krishna will have to come out. But thank you for sharing, bro. We can go on and on, but nice point.
And he will only reveal, otherwise he will not reveal himself, Prabhuji. So that is why we have devotees and non-devotees. Means atheists, what Prabhupada calls the atheists, they don't want to, they don't make an effort to know that there is a superpower existing and we have to know him through superpower. That faith is not there. Pariprashnena, they can do pariprashnena but without faith. Whereas a devotee does pariprashnena with faith, and he submissively and humbly and humility, he tries to find, then Krishna starts revealing himself, unraveling himself.
Exactly.
Through many agencies, Prabhuji, through actions around us, through people around us, through like the COVID situation we have, he's trying to tell something. Only thing is what he's trying to tell is different for different people, but we have to, if we follow the scriptures, we can interpret it rightly.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other comments or reflections from this verse?
I had a question, but I was not, question means I was not clear. Just can you explain more? Which is basically in the last, I think several verses, we talked about Yogamaya and Mahamaya. So Mahamaya was considered as good and Yogamaya was considered as kind of illusions, something like that. So I couldn't concentrate on that one on this slide about the Yogamaya and Mahamaya. So can you go back to that one and kind of explain to that?
Sure, Prabhu. So can you see the screen, Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
So, so Yogamaya and Mahamaya, they are all energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we shouldn't think Maya is bad. Yogamaya in this context, which is the internal potency of the Lord, is good, Satchitanand. But Lord is testing us. Lord, so whenever this Jagat, this Brahmanda, which is referred as the creation of Brahmaji under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is created, and there is that aspect of the fight between truth and false all the time. So this Mahamaya, which is the external potency of the Lord, it's the inferior energy of the Lord, or the external energy of the Lord. So under that, as you can see, there is a covering. See, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are supreme souls. So there are three things. We're not the body, we are the soul. The soul is part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the soul loves the Supreme Personality of God. So we have a situation where in our heart, the soul, which is 1 by 1/10,000 of the tip of a hair, which is mentioned in the scripture as well, that loves Krishna. So we have a part which loves Krishna and another part which we want to enjoy without Krishna. We really, so what does that mean? So Krishna mentions Pushpang Phalam Toya. That means anything you want to take, offer it to Krishna. But we want to enjoy without Krishna. So we want to eat something, for example, which is not recommended, which is recommended based on scriptures. So what happens is the person, they take the entire Prithvi Mata, for example, the nature. The nature is actually, if you look at the Baraha avatar, Mother Earth is actually the wife of Vishnu in that Varahadev who he married. But we take the nature into our hands. And that is where, and that conditioning, that ability to think that I cannot give life, but I can take life, is like taking the law into our hands. And that is where Mahamaya dwells on making us think that the real knowledge is covered. Okay, so the opportunities are there. It's not as if it's bad, but if we choose to take the law into our hands, wherein we do not recognize the significance of Supreme Personality of God and how he has created this entire Brahmanda. Brahmanda is actually Brahma's anda or egg. Okay, if you, and we discuss it, Brahmaji Pehle, in the beginning, he created 3 lokas, and from there he created 14 lokas, and we went over it. So the intent is there to do the right thing. So the options to enjoy without Krishna is like taking the law into our hands, and that is where it is very difficult for us to find the real knowledge, because we have gone into the pit of the wrong understanding. So that is, in that context, the Mahamaya, which is on the right side of this slide, is not favorable. So that's how I would like to put it. So the Mahamaya is not favorable in our, see, sometimes what happens in Friday evenings, we have get-togethers, but there is a festival in the temple. Sometimes our attraction for our friends are such that we do not have the mode of goodness or sattvic tendency to go. So sometimes our modes take over. And whenever that happens, it is the Mahamaya potency which takes us away from. So because you have the free will, right? And that is where it takes it away. And that is the challenge we are trying to explain. Does that help, Rosie?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, getting in.
Yeah, thank you. We can discuss more on that specific topic as to why we want to enjoy the Maya. So that's why Srila Prabhupada says that this life of enjoyment, the so-called physical enjoyment or eating enjoyment, these are like chewing the chewed. Like when you have a chewing gum, after some time, it doesn't taste good. So this is like, so Prabhupada nicely says, chewing the chewed. The woman enjoyment which is there, or any form of enjoyment which is created for purely sense gratification, purely for sense enjoyment. This has to be curtailed. And this is not something which our faith is professing. Every faith professes that. And that is where more and more we do devotional service, more focused we will become, and we will not stay away from this material enjoyment, which is ultimately going to give us unhappiness only. And that is that illusory agency or the Mahamaya potency or the external or the inferior potency of the Supreme Personality of God. So there is a choice. We choose to go there, or we can go towards the internal potency of the Lord by doing devotional service, and which is going to be beneficial for us. Okay, Prabhu?
And that is free will, Prabhuji. That choice is our free will, which we should execute the way we want.
Right.
Also, Prabhuji, to your point, adding to your point in Rana Prabhuji's question, here Krishna, I think that's why the question came here. Clearly, Krishna tells that I am there both as Maya, Yoga Maya, as well as Mahamaya, and I'm there as both. That's what he is trying to tell. So if you want to know what is Maya or what is Yoga Maya, the simple analogy which Bhakti Charu Maharaj always gives is, Prabhuji, that if you are looking at Krishna, you are with the Yoga Maya. If you are away from Krishna, that means it is Mahamaya. That what is away from Krishna? That is a simple analogy, but what does it mean practically means, Prabhuji? If we keep Krishna in the center, things will be understood by us. It may be favorable or unfavorable for that particular time, but it will be understood by us correctly. We interpret that situation correctly. And if we are away, if we are materially centered, like as Prabhu explained, if his sense gratification is in the center, then we may not interpret it the way it has to be. And this testing and all this, we think it is testing, Prabhuji, that God is testing us. No, it is a transformation process, because we all are going through a transformation process from generations. We don't know that. We are at this stage where we have to transform to the next level, or if we don't transform, either we remain there or we go down if we further do a destructive actions. So the Yoga Maya and Mahamaya are both. That's what Krishna is trying to explain, that I am both here, but I will become unmanifest only by your actions. There is nothing good or bad, but what is favorable and what is unfavorable, basically, for that time, place, and circumstance. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Sridhar Prabhu, we are going to discuss a lot about Maya. Actually, there is a wonderful book by his Bhakti Charu Maharaj always talks about the purity in a devotee to see Maya. We have to use Maya in Krishna's service. There are many places, there are many examples where Maya is used for Krishna's service, but more often Maya is used in the wrong sense, and it has taken people away from Krishna. And that is where some of the tables I have provided is from a book by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj. You can look at bpswami.net or com something, and he has a beautiful book on Maya. Actually, it's a book on Maya, beautiful book. Maharaj comes to our temple. He's from Odisha. He lives in Mayapur. You can Google him. He's written a book specifically on Maya. And I don't know if I have more copies in my house. When he comes to our house, he leaves a lot of books. So if I get hold of one book, I'll go to give one to you.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments and questions?
Prabhuji, I have one which may be little different. In the debate about Lord Vishnu versus Lord Krishna, how you consider these 10 avatars? And in these 10 avatars, Krishna is he is supreme because he has more kalas, 16 kalas, something like that. So I need some more clarification. I'm a little confused there. Maybe if you don't have time, maybe some other time we can discuss.
Sure. So Prabhu, this Dasavatar, right? This Dasavatar is written by Jayadev Goswami. He is actually a 11th, 12th century poet from the areas of Odisha and Bengal. And he has written such a beautiful Dasavatar sloka that we think there are 10 avatars. But as we discussed last time, there are 6 kinds of avatars, right? I can get the slide for you in due time. So there are 6 kinds of avatar. There is Purusha avatar, like Karnadokshay, Garvadokshay, Khirodokshay. Then there is Saktavesh avatar. Then there is Yuga avatar. There are 6 kinds of avatar, and the number of like Vyasadev is an avatar of Krishna. But Vyasadev is not in Jayadev Goswami's 10 avatars. So in the 10 avatars at the time, there was Madhvacharya came, and the 4 sampradayas came. So at the time, people were not very focused after the Buddhists left, after Sankaracharya unearthed the Vedas. So he created this 10 avatars, which is wonderful. But we also recognize that Krishna is not a avatar. He is an avatari. He is the source of avatars. But Jayadev Goswami, to his credit, he popularized this Dasavatar. But as we discussed last time, in the last class, Saturday, there are 26 avatars. And I'm just trying to get the verse. So, so in that, there are many avatars. So there are not just one avatar, there are many avatars. And let me see if I can get the slide for you. So there are 26 bona fide avatars, and avatars is dependent on to what degree they have performed the service in spreading Lord's name, Lord's form, Lord's fame, and how he is very prominent in his actions. So based on that, Lord has created many avatars, and there are different kinds of avatar to that. So what I can do is, anybody else want to add anything? In the meantime, I'll let me
Yeah,
search for
one
that
point I
slide.
want to add, Prabhuji, which you have already explained in your earlier classes. If you remember, Prabhuji, Krishna has 64. Since Pradeep Prabhu was asking for the difference, the Vishnu avatars, all are the Vishnu, they have 60. The 4 we can discuss in detail what are the differential 4 qualities basically, which is only with Krishna, Prabhuji. They are not with the Vishnu. And that is explained in scriptures. It is not made up or in ISKCON or anything. It is the 4 specific qualities which makes Krishna different from the Vishnu. Oh, and that comprises the 4. Like Shiva has around, I think, 55, Prabhuji, and Vishnu and all avatars, all the 28 avatars have 60, but Krishna has 64. That is one technical point which we can discuss, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely right as well. What Bhakti Prabhu is telling Pradipu is of the qualities. Brahmaji has qualities in full. Shiva has 55 qualities in full. Vishnu has 60 qualities in full. And there are 4 qualities which Vishnu doesn't have, which Krishna has, which is 64 qualities. And that is where they are different. Okay, and that is where it is mentioned that Krishna is the source of all avatars, and Vishnu is the Purusha avatar, the Garvadakshay Vishnu, Karnadakshay Vishnu, Khirodakshay Vishnu. In that sense, does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Oh, any other comments or questions? We have Lakshmi Prabhu who joined us for the first time. So let's welcome him with a loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Devar.
Let me share one thing. Which are you seeing anything? My computer is a bit slow. So,
Not yet, Prabhuji.
okay.
Also, Prabhuji, with Lord Krishna, it is not in awe and reverence. With Vishnu, it is an awe and reverence. That is from a devotee's perspective, Pradeep Prabhu. And for Krishna, it is just like the cowherd girls and boys, they don't know any literature or any shastras. They just the pure love and with awe and reverence, that's all the whole Vraj is basically called the topmost place because they just pure love. There is no awe and reverence there. Whereas other Vishnu, we have a lot of awe and reverence.
Yeah. So Pradeep Prabhu, I'm going to share the screen if it comes. Yeah. So can you see my screen, Pradeep Prabhu?
It came now.
Yeah. So as you can see, there are 6 kinds of avatars. This is Purusha avatar, Karnadaksha Vishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, Khirodaksha Vishnu. Then Lila avatar, there are many Lila avatars. The Guna avatars, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheswara. Then there's Yuga avatars, they're based on the Yuga. And then Manvantara avatar, and then there is Saktavesh avatar. So based on that, there are 26 avatars. And so Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, Khirodaksha Vishnu. Lila avatar, there are around 25 Lila avatars. The Guna avatar is Brahma, Vishnu, Maheswara. And Manvantara avatars are the Manus, and then the Yuga avatars are the 4 Yugas. And then we have the Saktavesh avatar, the divine absorption Kapila Dev, who had basically spread the names of the Lord, in many different. So with that, I'll end here. If there's no other question, so we can end here, right, Prabhu? If there is no other question, let's end here. Let's try to rejoin back next Saturday by paying obeisances in the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas by saying Vancha Kalpataru Vescha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanevya Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo
Namo Namah.
Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai,
Jai.
Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai.